right, so the first card that we're going to be doing is this one here, and we're going to be watercoloring it, but the very first step is to stamp and emboss our images. So I've already got my poinsettia stamp on my acrylic block. I'm going to use Versamark ink to stamp and emboss it. Now this is a nice ink because it stays wet for a while, so the embossing powder is not going to move while I'm waiting to emboss it. So I'm going to stamp my image, make sure to press it nice and firmly so that I get everything stamped. Pour my embossing powder down, and I can be liberal with it because whatever comes off of the piece of paper I am going to be putting right back into the container. So you can see I work on a scrap piece of paper in order to be able to easily put it right into the container. So now I'm going to emboss my image. You see how it changed there from being matte and dull to shining. So as that's doing that, I'm moving my heat gun around. So then before I do my next image, I want to take a look and make sure everything is a bright shiny silver. I use silver embossing powder, so we're making sure that it's all embossed. If you see anything that is dull and matte that's not quite embossed like that right there, it's pretty well, but I'm going to just touch it with the heat gun again. There we go. And now I can go and stamp my next image. Now, once you've got a lot of experience with this, you could stamp all of your images at once and emboss it all at once, but especially when you're new, you might as well hold off and stamp each image individually so that you know exactly where each image is, and you don't have to worry about getting your hands in the embossing powder while it's not embossed, because if I were to go rub against this right now, it would just rub the powder off. So the other thing about heat guns that I forgot to say in the heat gun section is even though like the heat tool that I'm going to be using for my background in my next card, even though that one looks like a hairdryer, they don't blow air, they emit heat. So that's a big difference. We're not blowing the powder around. The heat gun emits heat, which is what melts it. And if we were to use a blow dryer, you would not be able to emboss an image because A, the heat isn't enough, as well as the fact that you would just be blowing air onto it, drying the ink, and then blowing the powder off. Now, because I'm making this particular card here, I've already got it done, so I don't really have to think about my placement too much. If you decide you're using different images than the ones that I am using for this, you may want to adjust where your images are going, where your stamped images are going. So next I'm going to do my little greeting here. And this is all part of the same set that I'm using. And you'll notice I have lines on my block. You can buy acrylic blocks that have grids on them, and it really helps you with placement because you can take your image, you can line it up, especially if it's a greeting, you can line it up with the lines on the block so then you know you have it straight. Now you see how I've got this right here? I must have had a finger on my cardstock there. All I'm going to do is take a really soft brush. I'm going to dust that powder off just to get that. And you have to do that before you emboss it. Once it's embossed, it's there to stay. But just a soft brush that has a fine point that you can get detailed into. And what I meant by the last thing is if I used a really big brush there, I wouldn't be able to get right into the nooks and crannies there. So you want to be able to make sure that you can be precise with what you're brushing off there. All right, so I've got everything embossed. I'll see you in the next video when we will start to paint.